Hello and welcome. This is Apple Diaz, lead trainer of inspiringtrainers.org. Thank you so much for downloading a copy of this video course entitled Taking the Panic Out of Presenting. In this video, you'll learn about the three very simple and easy to follow steps that will help you overcome your fear of public speaking. Well, these steps are very practical that you can immediately apply them after you have gone through the course. You'll also get inspiration from stories of very successful people who were once like you were terrified public speakers. As to how they were able to overcome their struggle is what will amaze you later on. I'm very sure that for the longest time you've been wanting to come across more confident and more credible every time you need to present, be it for work, for business, or simply for any social gatherings. Well, I'm also aware that for the longest time you've been searching for that cure that will tame the butterflies in the stomach during any of your speaking engagements. Well, I'm indeed very happy that you've made the decision to download this video course because this is exactly what you've been looking for. The cure, the antidote for the fear of public speaking. If you'll sit through this course, put to mind all the concepts that we're going to share with you, and apply the tips and the techniques that we're going to discuss, then you're gonna ace that next presentation of yours, coming across more confident and more credible. So, are you excited? Because if you are, I'm even more excited to share with you everything that I know about public speaking. So, with that, let's now begin. In conquering your fear of public speaking, and now here's my advice. It's always good to start with the idea of telling yourself, I'm not alone in this world. Meaning that there are hundreds and thousands of people out there who also have the same fear of public speaking or who undergo the same dreadful experience every time they need to stand in front of an audience and then deliver a speech or deliver a talk. That alone will give us the comfort that what we actually feel is but normal. And because it is normal, it's also experienced by other people. And if these other people were able to overcome their fear of public speaking, and so we'll also be able to overcome our own fear. Well, the fact is that public speaking fear is considered to be one of the worst human fears. And just for me to prove to you that indeed this is a concern not just by a small group, but it's a concern by people worldwide. The next three slides that I'm going to share with you will indeed tell us how serious this fear of public speaking is among people from different parts of the world. The first slide tells us that in the United States, for example, 3 out of every 4 Americans suffer from the fear of public speaking. That is according to the US Institute of Mental Health. This is simply saying that if we'll put it into numbers, 75% of Americans find it dreadful to do public speaking or to talk in front of people, delivering a speech or delivering a talk. Well, elaborating it further, if we would want it in exact numbers, out of the 326 million population of the United States, about 245 million actually have this fear of glossophobia or public speaking. Well, this is something but surprising to many people because the Americans, whom we perceive to be very confident, very assertive in their manner of communicating and their manner of speaking, also experience such fear. All the while, we thought that only us Asians would have this fear of public speaking. But this tells us that we are just on the same boat with those of the Americans who have such fear of glossophobia. My second slide cites that the same agency points out that 5% of the current world population is affected by the fear of public speaking. Well, 5% may seem to be a tiny figure, but considering the world's current population of 7.5 billion, then 5% equates to 375 million people worldwide, saying that these 375 million people are also afraid to stand in front of other people and do their presentation. Well, that is indeed a serious problem by many. That is indeed considered to be a worst human fear. Well, the third slide shows the result of a survey that appeared in 2012, considering the top 10 fears among Americans. Again, well, it revealed that public speaking was on top of the list, meaning that it's the most dreaded of all the fears. But what is even more noticeable here is the fact that people are more afraid to do public speaking than to die, since the fear of death had fallen second. There was even a popular story, that there was this person who attended the wake and was being requested to deliver the eulogy for the dead person. That person who was being asked said that he would rather be the one to be in the coffin than be the one to stand on the podium and deliver the talk for the dead person. Well, isn't it funny that people are even more afraid to die than to do public speaking? You know why that is so? Well, people who were asked this question simply said that the experience when you're doing a formal presentation is very much similar with dying. You palpitate, you hyperventilate, you seem to be gasping for air, you have blurred vision, you're sweating profusely, your knees and your hands are shaking. Well, these are just among the many things that you experience. But the worst part is that you're never dead. You live through the experience only to deliver another presentation the following day, the following week, or the following month. Well, here's the good news. Nobody that I know of has actually died out of just simply doing a presentation. Now let's talk about possible reasons that contribute to presentation anxiety or panicking before or during a presentation. In the many years that I've been doing executive coaching on presentation and public speaking skills, there are common reasons cited by people why they're so afraid to stand in front of others and speak, or why they're so terrified to do business presentation in front of a client or in front of colleagues. Well, what I'm going to cite are three of the most common reasons that I have encountered so far. First is the perceived lack of expertise. When asked to deliver a talk on a particular topic, the initial thing that comes to mind is that who am I to talk about it? I'm not an expert. I'm not deserving to talk about such topic. Well, in most cases, it may not be true, but that's a natural instinct, and therefore we just have to counter it. When we are invited to speak on a certain topic, then the person inviting us to do so believes that we are capable and that we are credible to talk about that topic. Well, if you're not very sure that you'll be able to deliver as expected, then what needs to be done is first you have to believe in yourself and say, I'll be able to do it. And then second, let me prepare for it by doing your research very well, interview people, do some surveys if you need to do some surveys, gather good enough information. There's so many out there in the internet that you'll be able to find and come up with a very good piece of a speech or a talk on the topic that was assigned to you. That's the best way you can actually go about it. Remove the thought that you are not an expert, because you are. The mere fact that you're being invited is that you are seen as the best person to talk on that topic because you have such credibility. Well, the second is the lack of language proficiency. Well, of course, it's a common concern among non-native English speakers. For example, in the Philippines, people are very much conscious of grammar. Sometimes the credibility of a person is equated to his level of English proficiency. Well, they said that the more highfalutin terms you use, the more you are seen as an expert, which may not be true. In this age of globalization, when people communicate across cultures, English fluency becomes more important than English proficiency. What I mean is that as long as you're able to communicate your ideas well enough in a manner best understood by that other person you're talking to or by your audience, even if there are some grammatical lapses, then it is still considered to be acceptable. If really you can't even express yourself in straight English, it's always good to use the native language, which your audience is very much familiar with. It won't make you less of an expert or less credible in the eyes of your audience if you're not really that good in English. Like what I said, as long as you're able to communicate your ideas well enough for them to understand, then that's okay. Do not worry. As a tip, therefore, if you want to be better in English, if that's exactly what you want to be, just keep on practicing, and surely you'll be able to um, become a little more spontaneous, contributing to heightened confidence when it comes to the use of the language. Third is the lack of preparation. Remember what Benjamin Franklin said: if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. Doing presentations or delivering a speech, no matter how short, requires serious preparation on your part. You have to really prepare for it well. And even if you have been doing this presentation over and over again, you still need to prepare every single time you need to deliver. When you know your topic very well, your manner of delivery, your materials are ready, then greater confidence becomes the automatic consequence. Well, later on, we'll talk about preparation. That will really be a big topic. Okay? So, these three being the most common reasons or challenges are the ones cited often by people, making them less confident of themselves and contributing to really nervousness. So, what I would want you to do is to effectively address each one of them, given the tips that I have shared. In that way, if you'll be able to eliminate this, then it will be a lot easier for you to come across more confident and to deliver more effectively. Now let's go to the more exciting part. I'm sure you have long been wanting to answer the biggest question. How can we beat nervousness or kill presentation anxiety? How can I become more confident in my presentations or in my speeches? Here are three very simple steps you need to take towards being a more confident presenter. And these three simple steps come in the form of three P's. The first P is perspective. In addressing presentation anxiety, the very first step has something to do with your mindset or your attitude. You need to have the right perspective about the people and the situation at hand. Think positively instead of allowing negative thoughts to set you up and to eat you up. That way, positive outcomes are more likely to occur. When I say that you need to have the right perspective, you need to have the right perspective towards your audience. Instead of seeing your audience as your enemy ready to devour you the moment you commit that very first mistake, then let me tell you, you have to think otherwise. Believe me when I say that your audience is your ally. They are your friends. They want you to succeed, and they're even willing to cooperate with you so that you'll be able to deliver an excellent presentation. Because when you succeed in delivering that important message that you need to share with them, then they are benefited. Remember, the people who are in your audience are very busy people. They do not want their precious time wasted. They wouldn't want you to fail because if you do, their precious time gets to be wasted. And that's what they do not want to happen. And that's what you do not want to happen. That's why they would really want you to deliver excellently and effectively. Also, stop thinking that your audience won't be interested to listen to what you have to say. They need to know what you have to share. You are the bearer of a critical piece of information that your audience must know because this information will affect them and will have an impact on them, either positively or negatively. In any case, whether it impacts them positively or negatively, they need to know what that information is. Seeing that your audience is your ally and knowing that they're very interested to what you have to say is something that definitely will lessen the fear of standing in front of them and delivering that important piece of information. Always just remember, they are your friends and they are there willing to cooperate with you in order for you to be able to deliver that important piece of information that they need to know. Apart from having the right perspective towards your audience, it's equally important that you need to have the right perspective towards yourself as a presenter. Consider yourself an expert. Say, I'm an expert. I know my topic better than anyone else in the room. But always just remember the reason you're invited to speak or present is that you're considered to be an expert in the topic. You know the topic more than anyone else. You have more experience, you have more exposure than other people. You may also have certain skills that you possess which qualify you to be the speaker over another person. Well, there might be other experts in the room during the time of your presentation, but let me tell you, you should not be bothered at all. Instead, you need to be grateful amidst other experts because you have a team to back you up in explaining further the concepts and in answering difficult questions from your participants. That being the case, wouldn't you feel blessed amidst experts? Let me also add that experts in your audience need to be acknowledged in order for them to be an ally and not an enemy. You wouldn't want a jealous enemy in the crowd, right? So here's what you do upon learning that they're experts. Say something like, I'm so grateful and feel privileged to have in the audience another expert in the topic that I'm discussing today. So later, we welcome valuable inputs from and then cite the name of the expert. Then affirm that you are confident and that you'll deliver excellently. Instead of giving in to the human default of turning negative about yourself, you have to be your own number one fan. Henry Ford once said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. This simply means that if you get into the habit of saying, I'm confident, I will do very well, I will answer all their questions correctly, then that's what's going to happen. And that's guaranteed. However, if you keep on having your negative what ifs, like what if I forget, what if I lose my words, what if I don't get to answer their questions, then I guarantee this time your failure. Wire your mind to think positively all the time and couple it with much preparation. Then you are assured of a confident and compelling presentation. After we have discussed the first P, which is perspective, now let's go to the second P. And the second P has something to do with preparation. Preparation is key, and I mean it. You might have spent weeks or months even doing positive affirmation about your audience and about yourself. But if you did not prepare for your talk or your speech, then you will still flank it. Well, that's the sad truth. Therefore, here are the most important items you need to bear in mind while preparing for that presentation of yours. When preparing for your presentation, always remember to design your presentation with your audience in mind, not you in mind. Your presentation should not be about you. It should be about your audience. You should be able to answer basic but critical questions about your audience in order to come up with something that's more relevant and something more significant for them. Here are some of the questions that you should be asking yourself as part of your preparation. Who are my audience? What are their positions, their functions, their tenure, their age, their gender? What do they need to know and what do they need to develop? Do they need to develop knowledge, attitude, skills? Where are they now given what they need to learn and develop? And where do they need to be? What challenges do they face now which my presentation will somehow address? Being able to gather good enough information about your audience will help you come up with a more customized, relatable, and relevant presentation. Your materials and the manner of your delivery will then match your audience's profile and meet their expectations. That way, your audience begins to show interest and slowly begins to express appreciation for your presentation. Once this happens, it's a lot easier for you to connect with your audience and build rapport. Rapport is the one that paves the way for us more smoother interaction between you, the speaker, and them, the audience. When interaction is initiated, then the speaker feels more relaxed and feels more at ease amidst his audience. Thus, confidence is heightened. If you see that your audience is engaged, then it gives you that energy and that enthusiasm to further continue and to deliver more and to become better in what you are actually saying. Audience then gets to react and connection is very much established. So when preparing for that presentation, always remember that it's not about you. It's about them, your audience. So do everything in your power in order to gather as much information as you can for your audience in order for you to come up with something that's very relevant and something that they will eventually appreciate and they will eventually like. Another important thing to remember is that overcoming your nervousness can be achieved at the very beginning of your presentation. Remember that your opening can either make or break your presentation. If you desire to come across really confident, then come up with a very memorable opening. Write your script and memorize it, or at least know it by heart. Here are a few things that you should avoid as part of your opening. Never ever begin with a joke because people might not take your presentation seriously. Never begin with an apology. Something like, I'm very sorry I'm late. Or never begin with a confession like, I'm not the expert on this. I was just sent here because the expert isn't available. Instead, begin with any of the following: a strong quotation, an interesting figure, an intriguing question, or a moving video or picture. Just make sure that you'll be able to relate these kinds of creative openings to your topic. Afterwards, introduce yourself and then introduce the outline of your presentation. Then, another good thing for you to remember is that you need to be a very good storyteller. People just love stories, to listen to your stories and to share their own stories as well. Make sure your stories are relevant and meaningful. Also, make sure you elicit from the participants stories that they have in relation to what you are presenting or what you are discussing. That is, if they have any. That way, connection between you and the audience is sustained all throughout your presentation. Again, helping you manage your very own nervousness. Prepare for the unexpected is something that you also need to bear in mind. Most of the time, you are stunned by a technical difficulty or by an undesirable comment from one of your audience members, or a difficult question whose answer to you is yet to be known. When any of this unexpected happens, your confidence level suddenly shrinks to a pea size. Well, this unexpected should have been anticipated in the first place. Write them down and come up with a possible best response should any of them happens. They should not come as a surprise anymore. Instead, you should have gotten them covered part of your preparation. In that case, you don't have to worry about them anymore. The less issues you may encounter, the less nervous you become. After we have discussed the first two P's when it comes to coming across more confident, those two P's are number one, having the right perspective, and number two, preparation is key. Now we go to the third P, and the third P is no other than practice. Practice, practice, practice is actually the secret of great presenters. You know, my idol, when he was still alive, Steve Jobs, did a lot of serious practicing before his actual product launch. That's why we would consider that he did product launches very well. He's even considered the best corporate presenter during his time. So if we want to be like Steve Jobs when it comes to doing presentations, then we need to take serious effort doing some practicing. Never ever face your audience without practicing. You know, if we do practice, and the secret number is 3, they said that you need to practice at least 3 times. That may not even include your dress rehearsal. That way, you'll really get to know what you need to deliver. You need to practice not just what you need to say, but you even need to practice how you're going to say things. You know, when you know exactly how you're going to deliver things and what you're going to deliver to your audience, confidence is automatically gained. So now let me share with you certain things that you need to remember when it comes to practicing. The first thing that you have to remember when it comes to practicing is that you need to write your script and you need to know it by heart. We'll include everything in your script. The lecture you'll do, the questions you asked, the jokes you'll crack. Cover everything, including your FAQs or your frequently asked questions. Yes, you heard me right. Come up with a list of your frequently asked questions, and with this list come the answers to these questions. Well, let's admit it. What makes us so frightened about doing presentation is the anticipation of questions that could be thrown at us by our audience. So that being the case, why not anticipate those questions? Write them down and answer them way ahead of your presentation and even rehearse the way you'll respond in case they're asked during your talk or during your speech. Imagine if 6 out of the 10 questions you're able to anticipate and prepare for. Wouldn't that make you feel so much more confident about yourself, about your audience, and even about the questions that you're going to answer? It is important, therefore, that in your script, you'd even include your FAQs. Now, in doing rehearsal, it is best to do it as if it's the actual thing. Rehearse with your material and your equipment so you somehow have the feel of the actual speaking event. Do it in front of a camera. Record snippets of your presentation and watch the clips. Have an honest assessment of your performance. Look at what you're able to do well and what you need to improve on. Then retake it, incorporating the improvements that you've applied. It will also do you good if there are people to whom you can show your recorded video. Ask them for their objective feedback and take serious note as well. An excellent presenter is one who is open to feedback because, just like what Ken Blanchard said, feedback is the breakfast of champions. Rehearse, rehearse, and rehearse some more until you're able to polish your presentation. Once it's polished, then master it. Then you become it, a master presenter, confident and indeed compelling. As a last note to this video course on taking the panic out of presenting, I would like to highlight the benefits of overcoming your fear of presentation or doing public speaking with the story of the billionaire named Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett is the third richest man in the planet with a net worth of 76.7 billion US dollars. Well, before he became the Warren Buffett that everybody knows now, well, Warren Buffett was a confessed, terrified public speaker. He said he was so nervous, in fact, that during his college years, what he did was actually to arrange his subjects so that he'll be able to avoid those subjects that will require him to somehow do some sort of public speaking activities. He also tried to enroll in a public speaking class, but what happened was, even before the class started, he actually dropped himself from the list. Well, he said, I lost my nerves. And he did not anymore continue. Well, at the age of 21, Buffett started his career in the securities business, in the stock exchange business, and decided that to reach his full potential, he had to overcome his fear of public speaking. Buffett then enrolled himself in Dale Carnegie course with another group of around 30 people who, like him, were terrified of getting up and speaking to a group. Well, not even to make mention of their names to a group of audience. When Buffett was asked later on in one of his interviews, he was asked what were the habits that he was able to cultivate in his early 20s and 30s that actually serve as the foundation of his success. Well, Warren Buffett answered, you've got to be able to communicate in life, and that's enormously important. For him, schools to some extent underemphasize the idea that if you can't communicate, you can talk to other people and get your ideas across. You're giving up so much of your potential. He even added that he had two choices. Either, he said, force myself to face my fears, that includes public speaking, or avoid them and never reach my full potential. I just have to do it. The earlier I do it, he said, the better. Now, here's my advice, my friend, borrowing it from what Warren Buffett said. You always have two choices. Stay where you are now, frightened, afraid, terrified of doing public speaking, and never reach your full potential. Or face your fear, stand up, face your fear head on, do something that will make you overcome your fear of public speaking and experience success both at work and in life. Well, my friend, the choice is yours. You just have to make that choice. And I hope that if you do, you'll make the second choice, which is stand up, face your fear, and reach your potential. Be successful. Now that we've come to the end of our video course, I really just hope that I was able to help you and that this video course has provided you with enough courage to face your fear of public speaking and deliver your very best every time you need to stand in front of an audience and speak. I hope that I was able to enlighten you, motivate you, and inspire you that the only way for you to reach your full potential, as what Warren Buffett said, is to learn to communicate, to learn to overcome your fear of public speaking. Good luck in your next speaking event. I wish you a confident and compelling presentation. For more tips and advice, please regularly visit www.inspiringtrainers.org. You may also email me at applediaz@inspiringtrainers.org for questions, comments, and suggestions. Once again, this has been Apple Diaz. Thank you so much.